Good evening, dear tester community. Welcome to the second meetup of the group Agile Continuous Testing in 2022. Today with leveraging the power of your testing with Xray. My name is Markus Thaler. I'm test architect and test manager at Qytera. I'm ISTQB certified tester and test manager, and I've been enthusiastically involved in testing since over 30 years. Since 2014, Qytera has accompanied customers on their digital journey, supporting them strategically and operationally on the way from manual testing to test automation and agile test management. In a nutshell, Qytera helps customers accelerate their digitization projects through automated and continuous software testing. We love and live open source, not only in using tools and libraries, but also in sharing our knowledge in form of webinars like this one today, as well as in podcasts, blog posts, or ebooks. May I draw your attention to a special offer of Qytera. There's a free workshop on test automation. You find the link on the share. Now it's time to introduce our speaker, Christiano Cunha. He is solution architect and testing advocate, focused on helping customers to reach the best process that is suitable for them. Taking advantage of his vast knowledge of the software lifecycle and his understanding of organizations, he manages to identify challenges and overcome them to deliver in a more sustainable, safe, fast and repeatable way. Now it's your turn, Cristiano.
Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar where we're going to see how we can leverage the power of your testing with Xray. Before getting into that, let me just present myself. My name is Christiano Cunha. I'm actually a solution architect and test advocate in Xray. And at the beginning of my career, I started, like most of us, in the development area. And because of that, I evolved towards testing more focused on automation. And automation was always my preference within the testing area. Of course, I evolved and kind of touched in all of the different aspects of testing. I even went a little bit further and went into an infrastructure role where I was actually in charge of defining and building a pipeline for an entire organization. So that forces me also to understand how are we delivering software since conception until delivery and maintaining it in production, and all of the states between. So I have some experience now back into Xray just for presenting you this webinar. But let's start and let's see what is this Xray. So actually, let's see what we're going to touch within this webinar. We're going to see, I'm going to provide you a basic introduction about Xray, understanding the concepts, organization, and the documentation that we have available. We will go over the test case specification, looking at test cases and how we can define those and how Xray actually help you doing that. Looking at test case organization and execution. And then finally looking at the reporting and gadgets that Xray just have available for you in order to facilitate everything that you do regarding reporting information and having the information available for you and your team to consume. And of course, final notes and questions and answers. So what is Xray? Xray is actually a test management tool that lives within Jira. So it's an application that you install in your Jira instance. We have versions for cloud, server, data center. So whatever flavor you are using of Jira, you can use Xray and it will help you on the management of your testing. It will provide you with the ability to define tests. It will provide you with the ability of bringing that visibility and understanding the coverage visibility of the tests towards the requirements, understand about how those tests linked to the requirements, to the epics, to the bugs, and having all that traceability available for you to analyze. It will allow you to use manual tests, and we will see those, and use automated tests, and also ingest those results back into Xray in order for you to be able to have all the important information about your project in a single place. And that place, the one that your team uses the most, that is where you work with your requirements. You will see also how we can organize and plan, and how Xray will help you organize and plan all of your tests that you have on your project. And of course, when you talk about tests, we will talk about bugs. So every time you test, you will find something that needs to be reported. And I will show you how to report that using Xray and how everything is linked and easy to analyze afterwards. And of course, we have also a REST API available, and we will go over it in a little bit. So once you install Xray on your Jira instance, it will make available for you the following issue types. So for specification, you will have test case preconditions. For organization, you will have a test set issue type and a test repository that will help you organize all of your tests, and we're going to go a little bit in more detail on these ones. And after you have that organization in place, you can plan how you want to execute those tests, or what do you want to execute those tests using the test plan. And finally, you have the possibility to execute those in a test execution or sub-test execution. Of course, all of these issue types in Xray are actually Jira issue types. So not issue type, Jira issues. So all of these Xray issues that we are introducing are actually Jira issues. So they all inherited everything that we have in Jira in these issues. Meaning that if you already have an authentication in place in your project in Jira, Xray will inherit that. So every issue in Xray will have the same permissions control defined as you have in your project. And you can leverage a series of advantages because of Xray having the same issues as being a Jira issue. That is, you can actually define custom fields for your Xray issues. You can add them to queries. You can define custom workflows. So everything that you do with your Jira issues, you can also do with your Xray issues. So this is one of the good things. I just want to swing by and show you documentation that we have available for you that is really useful, not only to showcase everything that the tool can do, but how you can use the tool to help actually leveraging your testing with Xray. So in here, I'm going to focus in this first part, that is the project organization. So once you are installing Xray within your project, you will have to choose how you want to install it within your project. The most common approach of most of the teams and organizations that we have is the all-in-one installation. That means that you have the Xray installation in the same project of your requirements. So this will enable visibility over the tests, precondition test sets, and test plans. So everything tested related that you are adding with Xray will be visible for everyone in the team on the requirement project. This is usually what's used for agile teams that need to have that visibility forward in their projects. And it also will leverage the help that a quality engineer can have towards a developer and vice versa. So if the developer needs to help the quality engineer, it can, because now it has all of the information available in the same place where they used to work with the requirements. Of course, Xray is not here just to impose any way of configuration, so it's flexible enough to adjust to your needs. So the first example I just gave you of having all-in-one, it's actually the most used, but not the only one. So if you want to have a separated test project and a separated requirements project, you can, and this is probably more adequate if you still have testing team that is still separated from the rest of the team, that still wants to have full control about what they do without providing much visibility on the requirements project. So Xray allows you to have one requirement project and install Xray on a test project and having this separation. Of course, you must have some links here because you need to be able to link those things, but mostly this will be separated. And you have even an example that goes a little bit beyond everything that we just talked. That is, instead of having 2 projects, we have actually some clients that have 3 projects because they want to shield their requirements project of everything that's happening in testing. So they have it isolated. Then they want just a project where they have the definition of the test preconditions and the test sets. And then everything that is related to execution is in the 3rd project, where you will have the plans, the executions, and the eventual bugs that we'll find in the executions. This just to show you that you have possibilities in Xray that are available to you to adjust to the way that you work. So Xray is here to help you leverage the best that you can do with your tests. Let me just show you that I'm showing the cloud documentation because I'm going to showcase in this webinar the cloud version of Xray, but we have here also documentation for the server one. In here, I just want to highlight also these tutorials, tips and tricks that I think is the element that will differentiate from the other documentation that you have around, because they will actually be guiding you on how to do integration with Xray with proper example or working examples that you can extract from GitHub, that you can follow on the tutorial, and you can actually, once you do that, have a proper example and working against your Xray instance. So let's say for sake of example that I'm working with JUnit, so I'm working on automation that will provide a JUnit file as a result of the test execution. And I'm actually working with Playwright. So I have here actually an example on how using Playwright to generate a JUnit file, I can upload the results to Xray. And in here, like I said, you have a video. If you're more fond of a video, you have a GitHub source repo where you can extract all of the code that is exactly present in this tutorial. And you have the explanation about what is happening in here, how to compile it, what are the results expected, what is the report that is generated, and how you can integrate it with Xray in different ways. So you have here the API way of integrating with Xray, how we will do it using Jenkins or using the Jira UI to upload the results. So you have a multitude of options here if you want to integrate with Xray. But coming back to the presentation, we have just covered the basic introduction. Let's step into what is exactly that Xray will bring in terms of test case specification. So in here, I have prepared a Jira instance where you have your project going on. So I'm working in this active sprint, and I have already installed Xray on my project. How can you notice this? Actually, you have this entry on the left side menu that is the testing board that will allow you to access every option that you have within Xray. Not only by default, it will bring me into the test repository, but if I click here, I can see the different options that Xray has available to me. And we're going to cover some of them for you to be able to do so. Remember that I just say also that every Xray issues are actually a Jira issue. So this is noticeable. If you click on Create, you will see that all of the new issues that Xray is introducing are here available for you to create as any other Jira issue. So from the start, it's really fairly easy to create. Coming back to the active sprint, I actually have one user story that is covered by 3 tests, being the 3 different test types that we have available in Xray to be able to help you work and define your tests. In this area, what we see is actually we have everything. So this is the user story. In the user story, everything is normal. until you reach the test coverage area. It's just an extra panel that is added here that will have test-related information that Xray is adding. So for this user story, I know now that is covered by 3 tests because they are here. And I know now that so far the overall status is not okay. Why? Because from the 3 tests that are covering this user story, we can see that one of them has already failed, the manual one. And because it is failed, the overall result is failed. Of course, if you have different combinations, the overall result will reflect that. And you can check more of those combinations in documentation. In here, you can also filter using different data. So if you want to check the latest results for a given version or for a different environment or regarding a different test plan, you can, and it will automatically filter and show you the result for those filters. So from the start now, everyone that is working on this requirement will have clearly visible all of the tests that I'm thinking of doing to cover this result. And beforehand, if we already have any status back of the execution, it will be present here. So it's really invaluable information that you have here from the same place that you are working on your requirements. So I think this is really incredible to have, and it will really change the game once you start to have everything in the same place. But enough of that, let's just jump onto the 3 different test cases that we have available. Let me just open this up to show you the manual test case. That is the first one that we have available. On the manual test case, we can see now that we are within a test case issue. And in here, it's exactly like any other issue type that we have. But now we have an area called test details, where we can define what is the test type. This one is actually manual. We will see the other 2 right after this. And if it is a manual test, it will allow you to define different steps that you need to achieve to validate that, that requirement. And each one of these steps will have an action, a data, and expected results. And if you need any other information, like adding an attachment or something like that, you can also. You can define those, you can reorder the steps, but everything is here to help you define your manual tests. And one extra thing that I want to call out is the availability that we have to define a dataset. A dataset is something that you can define that will hold a parameter with values, and I can show you what that means. So for this test, I have a parameter called owner that I want to test with these 3 different values. So I have created a data set for this parameter with these 3 values available. And then I can use it directly on the steps using this format. So in here, I'm telling this step that I'm going to use a parameter called owner, and you need to fetch that from the dataset. And you will see once we execute that, what will happen to this parameter. So this is the manual test case that we have here available. Let me close and pass to the next one. We have also the possibility to create a cucumber test type with Xray. And here, all the same, on the test details, now we can see the test type is cucumber, and it opens up the availability for you to write the scenarios in Gherkin directly in Xray, Jira. So now you can use the Gherkin language with given, when, then, and write down the test directly in Jira. And this will open up 2 possibilities. Either you'll use Jira to be the central point, so the central point of truth, and all of the scenarios will be written in Jira. That means that anyone that is writing a new scenario, editing a scenario, will do it in Jira. And then we have APIs that will allow you to export that to your IDE where the tests, so the code behind, is being done. So you export the scenario there, you code the code behind, you execute that, and then you can ingest the results back to show the results of the execution of this test. So this is one way of doing things. If you want to have a cucumber test, but it's not defined on Jira, on Xray, you can define it on your IDE, on your machine, and you write those scenarios there. So the Gherkin is placed there, and then you just upload it to Jira to synchronize those, and then you upload the results back. And in this way, the central information, so all of the information that counts, is on the IDE or your machine. So you have these two ways of handling with Cucumber tests. And the last one is actually the generic one. So let's open it up. The generic one is the test. Let me just shift here. Is the test that will allow you to ingest the automation results within Xray. Because as you will see, the test type is now generic, and the only thing that you have available is a definition. This definition is a way for Xray to create a unique identifier that will be used to identify the test where we're going to upload the results. So every time we're going to upload the results, it will search by this unique identifier to associate it with the test. So this covers 3 of the types that we have here. I have forgot to show you that in the manual test, I have actually defined a precondition that is another issue type that is available for you. And you can see that on this tab. So, and I haven't go through the tab, so I'm going to take this opportunity to do so. So in here for this manual test, I can see in this tab of preconditions that we have a preconditions defined in here. And I can say, I can check if it's already part of a test set, and it will be listed here. If it's part of a test plan, we will see that it already is because I added it to the test plan, at least in 2 of them. And I can check the overall status of the test plan directly on this test. And of course, how many test runs do I have of these tests with the proper results and the versions and when they were executed. So all of the information of the test will be here on the test detail area. So coming back to the presentation, we have seen how we can specify and all of the preconditions. Now let's see how, now that we have defined in the tests, either they be manual or automated, how can we organize those and actually execute them? So coming back here to the Jira project, as we have seen, we have here, I'm going to demonstrate a manual execution and then an automation that is just going to run and upload the results here. So in here, I'm going to execute. So I'm going to start a new execution with a test execution. And in here, I'm going to create a test execution for quality. In here, the test environment is actually what you want it to be. In here, I have defined it production and quality, but we have teams that use this test environment as something that will differentiate if they are using different browsers. For instance, they have Firefox, Chrome. So it's really a field that can be used in your benefit, the best way that adjusts to your tests. So let me just create the execution. It will actually create a test execution and take me there with the test that I have defined, that I have selected on the once I have selected the test execution. And now I'm here. I can see that we have 3 tests, and they are all grayed out because none of them were executed. So they are all in the to-do state. And now to execute those, I just come here to the manual test and just press play. This will automatically take me to the execution pane where I can just execute the test. And here I have a bunch of valuable information on the top. I know that it's still in to-do state. Nothing is started to count because I have a timer here that I can use to count the time. It has not started because no one has executed this test yet, and it has not finished. Nevertheless, it's assigned to me, and it's for the version 1.2 and the environment quality. In the top here, I have findings where I can see if there are already some bugs, some defects associated to it, some evidence or a screenshot or some comment added to it. Nothing yet. I can see the description of the test right here. So all of the details are present on the execution. I can see that it's linked to this user story, meaning that this test is actually covering this user story. And I can see now that I have 3 iterations for this test. Remember that I have a data set with parameter called owner and these three values. So now upon execution, Xray will unfold that and replace the parameters with the values. And now we have created we have written it one time, so one test, and all of a sudden we have 3 iterations, so automatically. So let's see the details. In here we can see that we have a precondition that needs to be comply before acting. So it's here, and we have information available, and we have the steps that we need to do the validation. So let's simulate that I'm doing exactly that. I'm doing the validation, opening the access point, and well, the main page is loaded. So okay, I'm going to pass this step. It's just clicking on pass. Just quick overview of what's happening here. The test is now executing. The timer has started. We have the started on, and the executed by is now by me. So all of this is automatically filled out as I'm putting this progression. And I can see that overall result of the iterations is now one iteration executed, and the 2 others are still in to-do state. So let's go to the second step. I'm going to click on the list menu, and the owner page is loaded. Well, it's not loaded, so I'm going to fail this one. And in here, because failed is a finished state, we can see that it has the overall status is now failed. The timer has stopped, and I have a finished date and hour already defined. So this is really helpful. And of course, when this happens, usually a bug is happening, so I can create a defect. And now it's just a matter of, well, the owners list did not appear. And I can say that this was testing the component pets. And as we can see here, Xray has automatically added all of the steps that we have taken until we found this error. So automatically we have the first step that was successful and the second one. This is really useful for anyone that's going to take this problem to know what was done until then. Then it's just a matter of create. Now we have created a bug. The bug will now appear linked to this execution. And we will have here a defect that is added, and we know that it was on the first iteration on the second step, and we have here the details that were created. So this is really useful. The other thing we can do is actually, let me get back to my workspace and check here on the test plan and to see how I can execute actually automated test. The automated test here can be actually executed from your machine, from your CI/CD tool. So it doesn't matter really how you can, how you will do that as long as you ingest the results back. So for me, I'm going to use my IDE, and in here I have added one simple test that is adding pets, and I'm going just to execute it, generating a GUnit report. And once it executes, it will create a results XML. This results XML is fairly simple because everything was successful, so nothing to report. It's just a successful test case. And then I'm going to use the API to import the results back. To import the results back, I'm just authenticating myself using my API key and my token. And then I'm just pushing the results. So this is the results XML that was generated. Using the token from the authentication, and I'm just pushing it towards Xray using the endpoint and associated this with this project key and this test plan key. So let's see what this looks like. I'm just importing the results. And in here, I'm doing the call to authentication, retrieving the token, using the token to push the results back to Xray. And in here, I can see that now we have a new execution, AWB259, that was created. So coming back here, and remember I have associated it with the regression test plan. So now I can see on the test execution that we have a new execution that was done and was successful, uploaded by me, and I can here AWB259, click on it and check the details. And here, the execution is exactly this one. This is automatically given the name. And I can see that one execution was done. And I can click here to check the details. That is a an execution page where you have the details of what's happening in here, not very rich, but if you have a stack trace, an error, screenshot, it will be also uploaded and you can have visibility over here. But I jumped the gun and I already have executed the tests, but I want to show you how you can organize those before execution. And to do so, we have the test case and the test repository available. That means that for organizing your tests, so remember you have defined all of your tests, manual, cucumber, automated, and now you want to organize those in a way that is simpler for you to then create plans to execution. So we have test sets that is just an entity that will allow you to group tests together and to organize those into small groups that is easier for you to manage. And you have the test repository that is a folder like view that will allow you to organize those tests in a visible way within your project. So what it looks like on your project is actually, let me get back to the project and show you exactly what the test repository looks like. So the test repository is this folder-like view where you can create, add, remove, create subfolders within it, and then just drag and drop tests into these folders to organize those in the best way possible. For me, let's look at here in the pets folder where I have all of the tests that will validate the pets, including the three tests that was showcasing in this demonstration. And we can see now that we have the ability to filter those test cases, because if you haven't organized those for some time and you have now a big list of tests, you must be able to filter those out to select exactly the ones that you want to act upon. So you can filter by all of these filters that are here, or using a GQL query like the ones that you use in Jira. You will also be able to click on them to select. So I'm going to select these three, and when I click the right button on the mouse, I have a menu that appears that will allow me to define what I want to do with these tests. Either I'm going to view those issues, so I'm going to be taken to a list of those issues in Jira to check what those are. I can move them all to the root directory, or I can create a test set. This remind you that this is just a list of tests. So I can create a list with these three tests and give it a name. Or I can even go and create a test plan. So going a little bit, the next step further is creating a test plan. The test plan will actually allow you to define scopes of what you want to validate. For instance, we have teams that are using the test plan to define 2 tests within a sprint. Like you have a plan that will hold all of the tests that you want to validate for the features of that sprint, and you have another test plan that will have all of the regression tests, for instances. And now with that, you can plan how you're going to execute those. So this is really useful information that you have available. And as you can see, once you have a test plan, you can now check the overall result of the test plan, of the tests that are part of that test plan. So now that we have covered all of that, let's see, bringing it all together, what it looks like. So imagine that I have a Jira project, like I did, with all of the epics, stories, and custom issues there, and I have activated Xray within it, so I have the ability to create tests there, and not only to create tests, but also to link those to those epics and stories and custom issues. And now with this ability, I will have the understanding of how I am covering or not those requirements with tests. So the way that I have to organize all of that is actually looking at the test repository or using the test sets to create subgroups of tests within an issue type. So using that, I'm actually able to organize all of the tests that I've just created within my project. And now the next step after organization is how I'm going to plan to execute those tests. And in here, we will actually create a test plan that in here, for this example, I'm going to use the test 1, test 9, and all of the tests that are on test set A. So I'm going to just to include those on the test plan. And what will happen is they will actually unfold all of the tests that are on the test set A and add test 1 and test 9 under the test plan. And now that I have this test plan, I can start planning if these are all of the tests that I need to do the regression test, all of the tests I need to validate the component A, B, or C, all of the tests that I have to validate this sprint. So it's all up to you how you use these issues. Once you have all of that, you can now create executions of those tests, and you can create executions that will have different combinations of those tests. If you want to validate all of the tests in that test plan for a given environment, for a different combination of things, and all of that is done using test execution. So it will allow you to execute all of that. So overall, what we have seen is now that you have Xray available, you can write tests on the same place that you have requirements, either they be manual, cucumber tests, or even ingest the results of the automation there. You can have Notion directly on the requirements of what are the tests that are covering that issue, what is the status of this issue. So, and you have also the Notion, if you are using automation, what are the results of that automation. So you have all that present on the same place. You have the ability to organize those tests using the test set and the test repository that will allow you to organize all of the tests that you have created in ways that you can then use to plan how to do things using the test plan and defining different test plans for different purposes. And then you can start executing. If they are manual, you can execute it directly from Jira or start executing them from your CI/CD, from your machine, from anywhere that you want, and just ingest those results back. So in a way, Xray will now be your central source of information of everything that happens in your project, not only requirement focused, but also test focused. And all of this allows us to have a really rich reporting capability. So Xray come out of the box with all of these reports that I'm just going to show you in a little bit. We have coverage reports that will allow you to check how each one of the issues is covered by which one of the tests with which one of the results. So a broad overview about everything that you have. You have the ability to check the traceability report and understand how are the things being traced back and forth. What is the bug that is linked to the execution, linked to the test, linked to the user story, linked to the epic, and vice versa. So you can have different ways of looking at these traces. You have the ability to look at all of the test plans that you have created, all of the test executions, the test runs, and you have even the possibility, if you are working still in a, I don't know, in an area where you need to validate the execution, or someone needs to validate the execution, or you need to comply with some norms, and for that you need to generate a document that will showcase what you are doing regarding tests. You can do so using document generator that will allow you to export all of the things that you are doing into a Word, an Excel, a PDF with custom areas that you can define, like adding a signing page where you put the name, the hour, the place, in order to facilitate those needs that some teams have. Coming back to my board, let's look at the reports and look at what they looks like. So reports, I'm going to go over the test coverage one. It's the first one that we have. And in here, you can see that I'm going to use to view this report grouped by components. It's going to generate a report. And now I have, for each one of the components that I have defined, all of the stories that are associated with this component and the overall status of the tests that are associated with them. So now I can check for pets. I actually have one user story that has actually, I have one epic that has actually two user stories that have several tests defined in it. But as I can see, one of them is already failed because it's not okay. And I have still some tests that were not executed. So from the top of my head, I can really understand how everything is happening on my project. And I can have different views on it. I can check it group it by component, but I can check it by priority. And this is really what changed my world, so to speak, because I was, as a tester, always asked at the end of the sprint that fatidic question that is, are we ready to go to production? And here I go to check all of the Excel files or ask this tester and that tester and how it is done, and you have validated on QA, have you done this, done that, and gather all of that information to output the simple answer that yes we are or no we are not because of this. And with this panel, with this ability to check coverage, I can answer that straight by looking at it. So if for this project someone asks me, I will say no, we are not ready to go to production because we still have a high priority user story that has a test that is defined, but it was not executed yet. And we have one medium it is already failed, so we need to check that out. And again, we can drill down and check exactly what's happening here. So it's a really powerful tool once you have all of that information gathered in your project. The other one that I want to talk is traceability. So traceability is actually a report, let me generate it, that will allow you to trace back and forth everything that happens in your project. It gives you a view. For instance, we were working on the pets functionality, and I have actually created an epic that is this one. And I can now drill down on this epic, understanding how much user stories that I have available on these topics, how many tests that I have linked to those user stories. And I can drill down here and see that the one that we are working in is actually not okay. So I have the overall results of the tests. And this user story is not okay, making the epic not okay, because I have a test that has a failed status, that has an execution that was failed because a bug was open associated with this execution. So all of a sudden, I can understand how is this bug coming from and how it affects all of the other issues that I have in my project. And I can do that for all of the issues that I have defined in my project. So a really useful tool to have. And a really cool way of looking at the information that we already have. But of course, these are two reports that are just focusing in two different areas, but sometimes you need to have the availability to create a custom dashboard that will showcase what you want to extract from your project towards your team. And you can have one dashboard for more management layer without all of the details, just an overview of what's happening. And you can have one for your team with all of the interesting details of what's happening on your project. And this gadgets that we have here that are the encapsulation of the reports within each one of these gadgets will allow you to build your own dashboard with the combination of different gadgets that will extract different information for you to extract what's most valuable for your team to check every day. So it's a really good way of using all the information that you have available in your project. Another thing that I want to show you is also, other than the API that we have available, we also have a lot of integrations with CI/CD tools or with let me check just here, with CI/CD tools, and we have plugins, and I want to show you exactly, we have documentation over it. We have different integrations available. The one that I'm going to show you is Jenkins one, so we have a plugin for Jenkins. But anything that is not here, that doesn't have a plugin or a client or something that you can include, you can use the API to do so, like I just showed you. But we have the availability, and let me just, probably I'm going to authenticate again, of course, a lot of time has gone. So now, no. Okay, now I can go and show you the configuration of a pipeline. And one of the steps that we have available, if you install the Xray plugin on your Jenkins, is on the post-build action, you have now the ability to add an import task by Xray that actually will help you import those results back that you are executing from your pipeline. And in here, what you have to do is define Jira instances on Jenkins configuration. In here, I only have one, my cloud one, but you can have several, and you will target those in the time of the execution. You will define credentials, and then you will choose what is the format of the file of the result of the test that I want to upload. In my case, it's JUnit XML, but I have here a lot of other options that you may use. So no matter what is the framework, the language that you are using, it will depend on how, what is the format of the file that you are generating with those results in order to be injected back to Xray. So having that, we are not depending on the language, not depending on the framework, is really helpful and will tackle most of the things that are happening in testing today. Now it's just a matter of adding the results XML. So what is the file that you want to import? What is the project? And for me, I'm going to add a test plan key that I want to associate it with that, and then we can add other information. Once you have this, execute that, it will automatically ingest the results back into Xray. So this was the part that I forgot to mention. And actually, it's all that I have for you. I hope that you have at least a grasp of what Xray can do to help leveraging your tests. But if you don't, you have the availability to check that on our documentation or on our pages where we have information, or reach us in any social network that we have, and we are available. We have two other tools that I didn't have the time to tackle. That is the exporter that will allow you to export issues from Xray to outside, and the exploratory app that is actually free also, that can support you on your exploratory efforts. So try those out, check our documentation. They are cool and for sure will help you on everything that you do. So thank you for having me. It was a blast. Hope I see you around. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cristiano, for your very comprehensive slides. And now the spectators which have some energy left have the possibility to ask you questions. So we have already some questions, and I want them to put further questions into our Slido tool. But meanwhile, I can pose you the first question. Can you talk about the costs of Jira and the Xray plugin? Plus, if the reporting module is part of Xray, or is it an extra cost?
So, yeah, I can answer part of that because I'm not sure about the actual costs of it in Jira. I know that it's associated to the users that you have in Jira. So it is indexed because we are within Jira. The licensing is indexed to the users that you have in Jira. And the reports are not extra, it's part of the solution, so you don't need to pay more for after reports. But it's just a matter of getting in touch with us and we can give you some calculations about how many users that you have in Jira and how much it will cost you. But I can say to you that by the feedback that we had from our customers, it seems to be regarding other companies that are doing the same thing as we did, that is cheaper than those companies that have standalone solutions or something like that. But check it out with us and we will get you that answer for sure.
Is there another sandbox online, a sandbox expand? Seems to be missing labels, buttons.
Yeah, we are working on having a new sandbox online. I believe that also because we actually changed. We are not now using the expand IT endpoint. We have shifted towards the getxray.app. So probably that may be the issue. If we change expandit.com for getxray.app, you will have a healthier sandbox. Just a matter of trying that out. Because we, know if you guys know, but we were actually acquired by Qytera, and now we have shifted and separated from Expand IT for the moment.
So are there still questions from the community? I don't see any more. Please don't hesitate to post them. Cristiano is a very good expert of Xray.
Try to be,
your presentation was so comprehensive, there are no questions left, as it seems.
Yeah, hope so. But yeah, it's a tool that it will help you for sure on your endeavor when you are working in testing, because what was attractive to me coming to this company, and I'm not here for long, I'm just in Xray for 1 year and 3 months. But what drawn me to this company was the ability to have everything centralized in one place. Because during my experience, what I saw was I'm always using Excel sheets in one place and taking notes, and then I have to check different testers to know the overall result about everything. And now with the new DevOps approach, I have to check the pipeline, or I have to check security tools, or I have to check performance tools, just to get the overall view of what's happening in my project. And having a place that is trying to centralize all of this, not conditioning the approach that you are taking regarding automation, because the integration is with the results, the files that are generated and just ingested back to bring that visibility in, will actually help to bridge those gaps. So bring that visibility in to foster collaboration within your teams, and the ability to support more waterfall type of working, because you still want things separated, and it's a possibility. But as you are evolving, Xray will evolve with you and will allow you to change the way you're doing things using the same project and just shifting the configuration in order for you to be fully capable of using this. Of course, all of this makes sense if you're using Jira. If you are not, that doesn't make much sense, for sure. So that's the caveat here.
Is this the reporting part of Xray, or is it part of Jira? The reporting module you showed.
Yeah. So once you install Xray on your Jira instance, you will have automatically everything that I just showed. So you'll have all of the operations, all of those types, the issue types are automatically installed. And then once you start ingesting that information in, the reports will show you valuable information. So Xray is, you don't have to buy anything from the side. It's just installing Xray and putting it there.
Yeah, so I've just a personal question. You are very busy in developing new features. Could you please tell us about the rate of new features you follow? How many are there? New one? How often do you deploy new features?
Yeah, we are. So I can talk to you about one feature that we released some weeks ago. That is actually modular testing that will help you reshape. I didn't show this in the presentation because it will make it bigger, but it actually allow you in the manual tests to include other tests instead of redefining the steps. So let's say that if you have a test that is a login that is defined, you can create another test that will include the login test and then just define the other steps. And this will allow you to reuse test cases in other test cases without the need of rewriting the test steps, because and they will not be linked, because the biggest worry is if I use one test within another, when I execute those, will I put the result in both of them? And no, as you are, they are totally independent, because once you're going to execute those, what we will do is just unfold the steps that are being included, and we don't have the relation to the other tests. So it's just a matter of reusing what we already have here. So this is a cool feature that we just released a time back, and we are actually always trying to release new things. We're going to have an overview about the things that we're going to release. We have I'm not sure about the next deployments, but we are at least trying to do this monthly or bi-monthly. Probably we'll have some releases. Of course, if we have an issue or major issue, it will be faster to deploy. But we have the newsletter, so you can subscribe it to understand what's going on. So every month we send the newsletter with information that is really valuable. So we have a Solution Architects Corner, that's me and Sergio, where we put there everything related to new tutorials, new partnerships that we may have, because Xray does not live only about new features. We also partner with other tools in order to have the proper support and integration with other tools. So, for instance, we did an integration with a tool that is Functionize. We created a tutorial showing how you can include performance tests using Gatling, Locust, K6, and ingest those results back to Xray. So we are always searching for a next partner and for the next feature. And you can also, in our support page, go there and suggest things. So it's not only new features that we define, it's also features that are proposed by externals in our backlog. And then if you vote them up, they will be probably chosen for the next release.
Okay, thank you very much. There seems to be no further questions at the moment. Yeah. Finally, I want to draw your attention to our next event, Roadmap to Agile Engineering Excellence, Agile Engineering Maturity Model of the RBI. Feel free to subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, or give us a like. Feedback via webinar@qytera.de is welcome. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.